What's up, people? Thanks for stopping. I'm Steve. This is How the Fuck Did I Get Here? This is going to be a podcast about me rebuilding my body, mind, and soul. Guest coming very, very soon to your favorite podcasting platform and YouTube. And make sure you subscribe to my Substack to get updates on all the diary stuff that's going on. And I'd really appreciate your support there. All right. So, it's taken me so long to get this going. Want to do this for about 10 years, at least. But something that triggered this evolution in Steve, blah, 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 the awakening, whatever you want to call it. So, one day I'm on the couch, hanging out, Sunday afternoon. Kids are young. They're doing their thing. My wife at the time is doing theirs. And sitting on the television, watching PBS. Les Brown is on. And I'm like, cool. I'm digging what he's saying. And he said something that hit me so hard and triggered this fire. See if I can get through it without crying. So, Les said, what if you meet your maker? And they say, what have you done with your life? I gave you all these opportunities, all these lessons, and you didn't use them. You wasted them. That hits so hard. Because like I've said, I've known for decades that I've wanted to do this. Ever since I was 16 years old, I had a counselor tell me once that I've been through some incredible stuff, survived some incredible stuff, and that she knew someday I was going to tell my story to help. And that stuck. So this is dedicated to my two kiddos, Rye and Zachariah, two amazing human beings that have taught me so much more about myself and life and being a good person than I could have ever imagined. And I'm thankful to be here to support them and see them grow into the amazing young adults that they are. Let's not forget about my doggie, Cara Zarell, right here by my side right now. I'm not going to bug her because she's sleeping. Just scroll through my social media. You'll see pictures. Trust me. Man, I would not be here if it wasn't for her. And we'll chat about that. Yeah, in just a bit. Dogs. There's a reason why dogs are God backwards. It's just that simple. Want to thank the good therapists that have come my way and helped me fill my toolbox with amazing tools that have helped me survive and make it to the next day. And even the bad therapists that I've come across, yeah, they're out there. Watch out for those. But I learned a lot from them too. This is also dedicated in the memory of my late ex-wife, estranged wife, Andrea, mother of my children. It's also dedicated to my cousin, Tim, my beautiful friends, Becky and Audrey, Mark, Trevor, Todd, Stephen, Wes, and unfortunately, many more friends that have lost their lives to their battle with mental illness. All right, so these first episodes are going to be my audio biography, and we'll bring in the guest here in just a little bit. But I feel for some reason that it's important to share my life story with you. Not that I want to. Trust me. I don't want to be here. I don't want to have to do this shit. I would have much rather lived a nice, simple, boring life. No trauma, no excitement. But it's not the case. This is where I'm at, and this is where I have to get out of. And I think it's really important for us, especially as men, to realize and work our trauma backwards. Saying, I'm fine. That didn't affect me. Could be worse. All that bullshit. stacking trauma and bad experiences on top of each other without the knowledge of how to properly dealing with it, that's just a powder keg waiting to happen. And sometimes when you hit your 50s, if you don't have your shit taken care of then, guess what, my friends? Yeah, you could be one paycheck away from disaster, and that disaster hitting. And that's what happened to me. So, how did I come to spending over 1,200 days in a hotel so far? Let me explain. And no, it's not going to be a short story. We're going way back. Back when little Steve was a little baby boy. Apparently, mom had some complications, almost lost me during birth. Dad had to make the decision. Which one? I wasn't picked. Guess what? I made it. I survived. And you have to wonder if, something happened up here during the blood loss and what have you, blah, blah, blah. But so I was born in 1968. I am Gen X through and through. Walk it off. You're fine. I'll give you something to cry about. Kids are supposed to be seen, not heard. That was a big one in my house. Well, short version is my dad was a hard ass. Now, he did love me, and we'll get to some stories about how we made amends towards the end of life, blah, blah, blah. But, as a kid, you don't see that. You don't see that coming as an acceptability. Here's your mentor literally beating the piss out of you. Well, me. I remember when I was a kid, do something wrong, get a line, I'd get spanked. But I'd get spanked so hard that I'd pee on my dad. And I'd get spanked for peeing on my dad. And, shamed for that. And it's not a good scene at all. But I was also horrible in school ever since kindergarten. Come to find out in the later years of my life, like 10 years ago, that I have severe dyslexia. That, on top of the CPTSD and all the other trauma and what have you going on up here, made school impossible for yours truly, for the most part. Shop, auto, wood, dug that stuff. Everything else, I just couldn't grasp it. And back then, they didn't think you had a learning disability. They didn't know what that was. They just thought you were stupid, didn't care, wasn't putting in the effort. Try harder, do better. Yeah. And if you're not going to do the work right, you're going to get the horrible grades. Well, you're going to go over here with the remedial kids. The remedial kids, well, they're the bad kids. You don't want to go in with them, do you? Well, I did. So that means must be bad, right? Big fucking wrong, of course. But when you're a kid, you don't know that. And you believe the bullshit that you tell yourself, that your fellow students tell you about yourself, that your teachers tell you about yourself, the school faculty, your parents. It just builds up, and then one day you believe that you don't care. Just don't give a shit. So why try? Why not just be the fuck up that everybody thinks that you are? So start drinking at a young age. Start smoking pot at a young age. I was diagnosed late in life with severe dyslexia and ADHD and a few other things to make my life a little bit spicy. Would have been nice to know that when I was a kid, but, well, here we are now. And of course, with being horrible in school back then, they just thought you didn't care. And honestly, I didn't care a whole lot because I didn't fit in at all with anybody. Didn't understand the work, couldn't grasp it. So I was labeled dumb, but with the remedial kids. But those are the bad kids, right? That's what we were told. Now, Dad was hard on me for my schooling and pretty much everything else. He apologized when he was older at the end of his life for what he called his corporal punishment. And it was severe. Of course, back in the 70s and 80s, it wasn't. Now, he literally beat the piss out of me. When I say beat the piss out of me, he'd spank me until I'd pee. then I'd pee on him. Then I'd get spanked for that. Then he went to the belt, had more distance, would hold me up on my arms. Then when I got a little older, when I hit teens, open-handed. Now, granted, I was a difficult kid, but I didn't know any better. I didn't know how to react to situations around me, the shit that I'd been through. Well, one night in fourth grade, my dad left, and I thought it was all me. He was always angry at me, disappointed in me. So, of course, when you're a kid, you think that that's the case. Now, having been married and have a marriage go bad, I can say that I know that that's not the case now, Dad. Turns out, Dad left for another woman. Now, my stepmom, Lucy, she was an amazing woman, but I was not in her plan. I was not part of the deal. And I knew that. I could feel that. She had had her kids and grown up. They were pretty much out of the house. Except for her youngest son, Ron. Ron was my stepbrother. Ron, for my 10th birthday, took me out and got me high as fuck. 10 years old. No, not good at all. No bueno whatsoever. Because that was it. That right there was the escape that I needed from all the other bullshit going on, because there was a lot of it. See, my mom got remarried too. But this guy, he was an abusive, manipulative, narcissistic piece of shit. It was bad. So, mom was drinking heavily then, and this guy was a full-blown alcoholic. Start whiskey in the morning. Now, he was really abusive too, and he did some questionable things when I was a young man. Educating is what he called it, but this isn't the time for that. But he was also a physically abusive piece of shit. I mean, it was bad. But the good part about it was he was drinking. And I was a big boy. I was pushing 6 feet, 250 pounds as a kid. And one thing I learned from my dad beating the shit out of me is to how to throw that right hook and to take a motherfucker out. And I did. Here I am. I'm a young teen having to save my mom from this abusive asshole by beating the shit out of him. And that happened more times than I can count. The following may be very triggering for some people. Please take note and step away if you need to. So that was the first time that I tried to take my life, right around that time. Went in the kitchen, took a handful of Tylenol. I mean, a big handful. And, yeah, a little bit later, shortly after that, went to go say bye to my mom, told her what I did. She said, "Stephen, that won't do anything." Well, it turns out it will. And she said, "How do you think it'll make me look if you do that to yourself?" That's when I knew she just didn't care. She just didn't get it. It wasn't about her. It was about me. But I apparently couldn't make it about me. So I told her, "Thanks for caring." Stormed off into my bedroom, stared at a rifle that I had in my room as a young teen. I waited for her to come take it, but she never did. Well, a couple of days after that, I get home in the evening. My mom's gone, but my stepdad is there at the kitchen table cleaning his guns. He goes, "I understand you want to check out. You want to leave. Took a bunch of pills." Stands up. He goes, "I can help you with that." He pushed a 12-gauge shotgun, double barrel, into my stomach. He goes, "You say the word, I'll make it look like an accident." I grabbed the gun, pushed him away. He actually landed on the ground. Told me he was fucking crazy, and I ran to my room, locked myself in there with my own firearm, waiting for him to come. And he never did, thankfully. He passed out in the chair, and I came out later. Guns were put away. Mom was home. Everything was happy, like nothing had ever happened. Shortly after that, I asked to move in with my dad. And, well, I said my stepmom, she was a very good person. She liked me. But I was not part of the deal with my dad, and I could tell. So I never really felt welcome with her. I felt safe, which was important. Because by then, my dad had really lightened up on me during that time. He went back to not being so light. We'll touch on that here in just a bit. So after living with my dad for several months, my mom finally kicked my stepdad out of the house. So I moved back in with my mom and settled down and was a rambunctious young teen fighting the system. It doesn't work out so well, but it's fun. So there I was, a very rebellious, rambunctious young teen fighting the system, which honestly was kind of fun at that time. But here's the kicker. My mom and dad got back together. That'll fuck with you. He was kind of mad because I wasn't grateful that they got back together. What the hell do you want? I want to explain why the fuck I had to go through all that to come back to point A. Of course, now it's all part of the learning process and allows me to do this and talk about my trauma and how I got out of it-ish. So, there we are. One big, happy family. Now, before my parents got remarried, right after they got back together, we were driving to my aunt's house in Southern California from Central California. And there was an accident. It was a horrific accident. I'm 14. Actually, I'm 13. Summer I turned 14. It was Easter weekend. We're driving back. And we're in a small two-door Fiat Super Brava. 4 of us. Coming up Interstate 5. And I hear my mom scream, "Kenneth, what are you doing?" Brakes hit. And we hit a car that had been stopped in the fast lane on an interstate. And my dad was not a slow driver. And it was a Cadillac. No match for a Fiat. It was really bad. So, right after impact, my dad jumps out, my brother jumps out, and I climb out of the side of the car, the driver's side, because my mom, who I was behind, was stuffed underneath the dashboard. But see, her legs were on top of the dashboard because that's where she had her feet when we made impact at full speed. Keep your fucking feet off the dashboard. So, it was pretty bad. And thank God for Boy Scouts first aid training. Oh, man. Because him and I went into action. He used to drive ambulance when he was a kid, so he had a little experience in traumatic injury and, helping people during accidents. So I get out of the car. My dad's like, "Steve, we got to get your mom up." Awesome. I knew exactly what he was talking about. So I take the upper half. I reached down, grabbed her shoulders, stabilized her neck and back as best as I could. And we picked her up sprawled her across the front seat of the car. My dad reattached her foot. Keep her feet off the fucking dashboard. Her foot was attached by her Achilles tendon. That's it. He wrapped it up. The whole time Mom was staring at me. She told her, I've got you. Just look at me. Just look at me. Thankfully, an ER nurse arrived on the scene shortly after it all happened and right after we got her stable right across the streets. That's when everything went into slow motion. You know what I'm talking about. I remember sitting in the front of the ambulance and I had my sunglasses and I finally put them back on. Didn't want anybody to see me cry. And there was glass, blood, and pieces of exploded ankle on my sunglasses. And I sat like that for about a half an hour as we went to the nearest ER. That sticks with you. My dad ended up with a bruised heart, some broken ribs, and it activated his MS. See, he's had MS ever since I was a little kid, and it really flared that up, made it hard for him to move around. But he was only in the hospital for about a week. My mom, on the other hand, different story. Compound fracture of the right ankle. Right knee, shattered. Left ankle, shattered. L2 vertebrae, broken. Face, broken. Concussions. My brother and I, who were unrestrained in the back seat of the car, were okay physically for the most part. Mentally is a completely different story for obvious reasons. But we survived the accident. Mom was in the hospital for, I think it was 3 months the first go around. But she actually spent a year in a hospital bed in our house recovering from surgeries. Of course, they had to fuse ankles and there was pins and they had to do this and they had to do that. And it was just, man, it was rough. And that's, she really became my hero for having to go through all that shit. So I basically became my mom's caregiver, her part-time physical therapist on a daily basis, and household cook. Oh yeah, that's when yours truly learned to cook like a mofo. So my dad could cook ham and scalloped potatoes. Everybody say hi to Cara. So he'd stick the ham and potatoes in the oven. We'd go to the hospital, see Mom, come home, have the same dinner again. And it served its purpose. Well, my mom had always been an amazing cook, and I'd always helped out in the kitchen. Loved to learn. But that thrown in, trial by fire. I'll never forget, she was in her hospital bed one night. We all wanted fried chicken. I'm like, I can make it. So she's yelling out instructions around the corner to the kitchen from her hospital bed, step by step, on how I should make fried chicken. And my fried chicken today is the bomb. Trust me on this. I move the camera so you can see my baby girl. Hi, Cara. Hi. You gonna come up here? You gonna come say hi to the people? You come say hi? There's somebody out there? Yeah. All right. Come here. Come say hi. Say hi. We love you. God, I love that dog. You gonna stand guard? All right. She always knows when I need her to stop by and say hi. Check in. And she could not have been more right, because this is where things are going to get even more spicy. Another trigger warning now. So, with my mom going through a bunch of surgeries, bunch of pain, Pain pills. Oh, yeah. Pain pills and Valium. That's what they prescribed her back then. And I helped myself to it all. Why not? Worked for her. Shit, I was in pain. And I'd seen my parents do nothing but medicate themselves for pain. And that got me into some trouble. That put me into a situation. It's the reason why I'm here. So, again, trigger warning. So, take a bunch of Valium one day, go to school. Keep in mind, I'm in junior high. I'm in 8th grade. I am high as a fucking kite. Not the first time. This time, however, I decided to take an extra one. It was Valium is what it was. And I remember being high through school and what have you. And the next day, a teacher, first name was Mark. He taught math. Says, what were you on yesterday? You can tell me. I won't tell. Nothing. I wasn't on anything. Blah, 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 blah. What does it mean? Come on. There was something up. We all knew. No, I wasn't on anything. And I went with that story. But I think that allowed some evil to creep into my life. Because with that person knowing that I was taking narcotics at that very young age, his best friend, well, I don't know if it was best friend, but his teacher friend was my teacher friend. So, 7th grade, new young teacher shows up. He's an art teacher. I liked art. That was something that I could do. I wasn't judged for not being the best at art. But during the accident and afterwards, I'd hang around a lot in this teacher's class because I didn't want to go home. Didn't want to go home to my dad, who was carrying the weight of the accident. Didn't want to go home to my mom, who was in her bed in the house. It just created a lot of pain. It just wasn't a good place for me to be. So I thought it was safe for me to be at school, hanging around this one teacher. Doing that, the teacher would take me out for ice cream. And yeah, you can see where this is going. You're right. I'll get to that. And he'd let me drive his car. I would literally drive this teacher's car off the junior high school parking lot to his house in Stockton, California, where we'd hang out, whatever. Play tennis. We played tennis a lot, which at the time was good. I thought I needed that. I didn't have anybody that could relate to the pain that I was going through, that experience of the accident and everything else. I thought he related to me, but he was grooming me. Last day of school, he wants to take me fishing. Cool. So tell my dad. He's like, yeah, you can go fishing. Have fun. I'd fished a lot. Dad and I went fishing. And he shows up at my house to pick me up that day. And it's early. I'm late afternoon is what it is, because we're going night fishing. And I remember this teacher going, yeah, Steve said he wanted me to bring some beers, blah, blah, blah. Bring some beer, ha, ha, ha. I told him no. That was a setup. That was a setup for the cover-up. So we go fishing. On the way out there, we stop at a gas station. Gets me a drink and a cup. And we were there fishing for a little bit, and we had a drinking contest. That's it. That's the last thing I remember before I woke up. In a chair in his house. Him in the shower. Mad at me. Late at night. I get home. And I remember having to be helped in the house. My dad not happy. I had no idea what had happened. Till the next afternoon. I mean afternoon. I remember it being 3:30 in the day. I get up, go to the restroom, and it's obvious what had happened. I was a young man. I knew what came out of there. Shouldn't have come out of where it came out of, though. And it was very obvious what had happened. But in my young mind, I thought, I must be gay. At least I got laid. Junior high, everybody talks about getting laid or having sex. I'm like, okay. And didn't think I was gay. Never looked at the men's Sears catalog or anything like that. Oh, no. I was the bra and panty section. Sears Christmas catalog. That's what Gen X had to deal with. Got to have a little latitude in this, right? Okay. So teacher disappears. I reach out to him, call his house, no answer. And the very first day of school, the next year. Now, right after that, I went back to the junior high. Go say hi, check in, see what's what, And he scolds me for being there. Tell me that I don't go to that school anymore. I can't be there. I could get arrested for being on that campus. Security shows up immediately and escorts me off campus. It was right then that I knew what had happened. And I understood what had happened. That what he did. But I buried that like all the other trauma and kind of rebelled against it, of course. I had never thought that I was gay in any way. However, I knew that if I was, my dad would disown me. I just knew that as a kid. So I never felt comfortable in any way. You think, what if? And never had those thoughts or feelings, But I knew that if I was, it would not be good for me. It would make things so much worse than I already had going on. So, buried it, rebelled against it, more drugs, more alcohol, more rebellion, get my license, driving like an absolute bat out of hell, zero cares. And I had that counselor that I mentioned, Miss Stoner. We had a conversation once about that in that time. And she really kind of woke me up to what I was doing. She called that a slow suicide. She was right. Didn't care. Taken out by driving off the road 120 miles an hour, BFD. Yahoo, Very, very reckless. With my driving, I got into drugs a lot then. Yeah. And I never went to class in high school. It was really, really bad. I mean, if I did, I would just put with the remedial kids, and that's not what I needed. Needed that help for the ADHD and all that other learning stuff that I was going through, along with the trauma. So I hardly ever went to classes in high school. I would skip out, call in sick, whatever, just didn't go. Then I'd get bounced back to the continuation high school. Then I'd work my way back to the regular high school. Did that a couple of times. And I'm in high school, like real high school. Get called in to the principal's office. I just turned 17 and a half years old that day. Vice principal goes, Mr. Benning, we appear to be a waste of your time, and you are definitely a waste of ours. We're going to part ways now. Have a good day. That's a quote. That's not, let's exaggerate to make it sound less better. You're wasting our time. Goodbye. Yeah. So, that sits well when you're a teenager. But hey, more time for cruising around and drugs and alcohol. Did I mention that I actually had a ice chest in the back of my car when I was going to high school, filled with wine coolers, California coolers. If you know, you know. I'm not drinking anymore, but if I was, I think it'd be one of those. Oh, salivating. So good. So, here I am cruising through my teens, blind, comfortably numb to the world. Got everything packed away in a nice little box behind a big brick wall that we don't talk about at all to anybody. Keep it nice and quiet. We're in. We don't talk about that shit. We get through it, right? Man up. Walk it off. Yeah, you're fine. Anyway. Yeah. That builds up a lot. So there I am, freshly kicked out of high school, cool car, money, dope, weed. It was a horrible time. Yeah, it was really, really bad. Would I change it? No. Would I change the thing that caused it? Fuck yes, of course I would. But no. So we'll jump forward a couple years. 21 years old. Meet this beautiful girl. She was 18 at the time. And I'd seen her before in my dreams. I know that sounds hokey. I know that sounds cheesy. But the second I walked around that corner and saw Andrea, I knew that it was her. I said to myself, there you are. And we had some really good times together. We were together for 5 years before we got married. And we actually got married in the house that my parents got remarried in. But we partied. We partied hard. We had easy access to some very dangerous drugs. Yeah. And we took advantage of that. I was able to sell enough to support her habit, support my habit. But then we each had our own habit where we'd get our own, we'd keep it to ourselves and be like, oh, I'm out, You know what tweakers do. Oh yeah, it was that bad. And it got so bad that I knew we had to leave. Because again, I was going for broke. I was doing as much as I could. Then I'd counter it with alcohol or weed or something else. Then I'd try to counter again. Again, I was going for fucking broke. I'm glad I didn't break. Well, see, we decided to move away from Central California, where we had been for 5 years, and move back to South Dakota, where my parents had been. Now, they moved back there a couple years before that, and they were going to retire. But see, my mom had a massive aneurysm right after they finished their dream house. So we moved back there to be with my mom and dad, help my dad with mom, and clean, get away from that shit. But we went from Modesto, California town of 250,000 people, to Redfield, South Dakota, town of 2,500 people. One stoplight. And that's no joke. Huge culture shock for both of us, but I will tell you, our oldest, Raya, was born 1 year to the day after we were married. And that's the day that changed my life. I know that so many people say that when they see their kid for the first time, everything changes. And I got that then. I was like, oh, I got serious about some shit, like right away. And I did. Of course, hadn't done any drugs in a long time. Had switched to drinking, though. Put on a lot of weight. Started eating and put on even more weight. Funny thing happens when you stop doing meth, you get your appetite back. But side note, I was pretty fat when I was doing meth too. Anywho. Now, that changed my attitude on life and changed my vision. And that was good. And that went well for many, many years. But after a second child was born, Zachariah, Andrea changed. My personal belief, and the belief of therapists and professionals that I've talked with about her situation in depth, it's believed that she might have suffered from postpartum depression, and that caused other depressions. And I can tell you, she would have been diagnosed with CPSD as well from her past and her childhood. But that's not my story to tell right now, so I'm not going to. So after the youngest was born, I knew it was time to get the hell out of South Dakota. Way too cold. Mosquitoes too damn big. And honestly, there's not a whole lot to do about there. So anyway, we move to Page, Arizona. Page Lake Powell. Beautiful spot. Started running a radio station that was there. And that's when things really changed for her and us. Her drinking became excessive and became dangerous. I will tell you, over the course of our time together, Andrea had been arrested 5 times for domestic violence against me. She'd also had been taken to the hospital for 5 attempts on her own life. At the beginning of her decline, I wish I would have helped better. I wish I would have known what I know now about mental illness and postpartum depression and bipolar disorder and CPTSD. And I wish I would have been more kind. I didn't know either. I knew that things were really broken when, after the first attempt, I asked, not in the nicest way, "What's wrong with you?" And when she responded, "I didn't know," that broke my heart too, because I knew she didn't know what was going on. And I could see how lost and scared she was. So what do I try to do? I try to help. I do my research, find a lot about mental illness, postpartum depression, started connecting a lot of dots to yours truly. So I'm like, oh, I didn't escape unscathed either. We're handling this in different ways. But heard the old adage, can lead a horse to water, but you can't make her drink. This is definitely that case. And how dare I bring up something about her issues, mental illness, whatever. Because, of course, I had my own issues. But, yeah. Now, we were together for a long time. We're almost together for 25 years. We missed it by 1 month. Now, hindsight, they say, is 2020. And yours truly is the fucking master of coulda, shoulda, woulda. I coulda, I shoulda, I woulda. Not so much anymore, but back then, oh man, I beat myself up so bad. It got to the point where Child Protective Services was in our life because of her arrest and her attempts. And one of the officers one time said, "Steve, this has to stop. We're going to take the kids." And that was it. That's when I started planning my escape, departure with the kids. Took a lot longer than I would have liked, but it happened. That's when I started putting things in motion. But then, to spice some things up, my mom dies. Stage 4 cancer. We found out she was gone 8 days later. Ladies, please check yourself. Okay? So, that slowed down things a little bit, more than I'd like, because I had to become a caretaker for my father. See, my dad he was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis when I was just born. So he fought that shit for a long time. And I could tell that he was getting worse about the time Mom was getting sick. You could see their decline, you know? But right after she passed, he took a huge crash in a big, big way. It'd almost be poetic if it wasn't so fucking painful to watch. So we get back from my mom's funeral. 8 days after that, my dad is diagnosed on the same day with Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease, on top of his congestive heart failure and his multiple sclerosis and a few other things that he had going on. It really made things challenging, but I'm glad that I got fired the night of my mom's funeral. Oh yeah, you heard that right. Fired. 1 sentence email by a radio station that I've been running single-handedly. GM found out that I was trying to buy the damn thing. I didn't want him to be part of my deal. And yeah, there I am, heading to my mom's rosary. "Thanks for your service. You are no longer needed." Blah, blah, blah. That's how this guy talked. I'm not just making fun of him. Well, I kind of am, but he deserved it. And yeah, so I get canned, but it's good because that's when I can become a caregiver for my dad, because he crashed hard. He could barely walk anymore. He was getting around with the walker, leaning on walls of his trailer that they lived in just to get around. He had to take his keys away when I caught him driving once. Shortly after that, he was picking up his leg to set on the brake so he could stop because he couldn't move his legs anymore with the MS. Yeah, that's fun, taking your dad's keys. But anyway, so his decline was pretty quick. He fought it, but he passed away a couple years after that. Have to have a little good story in this. So before my dad passed, we put him in hospice, and his brother came to see him, say goodbye and whatnot, check on him. His older brother, my Uncle Brownie. But see, my dad was really, really hard of hearing by then. I could yell at him and he could barely hear. But what I did is I borrowed a mixer and some headphones, a couple of microphones from the radio station that I was working at that time, and I took them down to the hospice. And I gave my uncle a microphone, myself a microphone, my dad some headphones, and I cranked everything way up. So it was really loud and everybody could hear and he could hear. And he engaged in a conversation for, it was a good 3 or 4 hours. Him and his brother talked about the way back when, family and memories and stuff that I'll never forget. I'm so grateful we were able to pull that off. That night at 3 a.m., that's when I got the call he was gone. So there I am, single parent, both parents gone, trying to figure out how the fuck did I get here and what's next? And I landed a couple good jobs. Met some amazing women. Had them come and go out of my life, and I'm grateful for each one of them. For a fat dude, yours truly, it's done pretty well. So there I am, doing okay, surviving. Nailing the single dad thing, if I can say for myself, having a good time. Doing pretty good in my career. And COVID hit. Now, I know it affected everybody differently. With my business being in radio, I was in sales at the time, we lost 74% of our revenue in one day. I know it hit everybody hard. And during that time, that, of course, affected my financial stability, which was already not so stable. But going through, doing my thing, COVID hits, world collapses, blah, 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 and I'm not able to pay my rent. So at that time, there's government subsidies. Now, through the state of Arizona, it was a clusterfuck. Don't know how it was in your state, but the wait, they were overwhelmed. So I'm doing what I can, paying what I can. Landlord's pissed. Not digging this at all. Go to work. F COVID. Blah, blah, blah. He's that guy. Now, keep in mind, I've applied for all the assistance that I can, and I'm in the pipeline to get it. And we're a couple months into waiting, and still hasn't happened. But the day that the memorandum was lifted, where they could, file for evictions and stuff like that, our landlord did that. He filed for eviction. So, go to court. Now, court, of course, is online. Apparently, there'd been another 30-day stay that had been adjudicated, and folks like myself were allowed another 30 days for the state to come up with their fundings to prevent their eviction. However, state didn't come through. And I was calling almost daily to find out what the process was of my claim, talk to my caseworker, which would get switched from here to there, because the system back then completely overwhelmed. So many people needed help. Well, and going into the second court date for the eviction hearing, still, the funds had not been approved yet. They were close to being approved. That's what I was told. Quote, they're close to being approved for everyone. Obviously, everybody was waiting for them. I will tell you, before we get to the ugly stuff here, they did eventually get paid. I was able to pay all my back rent thanks to that, and was able to exit that lease when the lease was up, owing nothing. Moved on to another house after that. However, during that time when I said I was close to getting it, The attorney started to yell and scream at me. What do you mean you're close? You're close to getting it. That's like saying you were close to being raped. He yells this at me. It all came back like that. All of it at once. I said, what? What do you mean? He says, you heard me. Either you got it or you didn't. Either you got raped or you didn't. And I'm absolutely flabbergasted that this person had said this. I'm not only thinking about me, I'm thinking about the other women, or I should say the women that were on this phone call. You know, the recorder. It was just, I was floored. So I yelled something like, how could you do that? Why would you say something like that? And he yelled at me back, and I said, how dare you? I've been raped. Had a little bit of silence. Judge muttered, didn't know what to say. Attorney goes, I'm sorry, I'm tired. So fucking what? That doesn't give you the right. And I went off, and that's pretty much all I can remember of that conversation, because that moment right there was the start of the mental collapse and decline that led me to right here where I am at right now. I was in no way prepared to handle that, especially being unleashed like that. I talked about it a little bit in therapy, but things had passed. And when I was actually talking about it with my therapist after the divorce, the son of a bitch died. I didn't know what to do with that. Okay, so I thought, signed, sealed, delivered, we'll just pack that up neatly behind the wall. Maybe it'll come out some other day. And who did it? Complete and utter mental collapse. Nightmares, voices during the day, just complete psychosis. And I knew that I needed help, like right away, to get through that. But with it being COVID, everything was full. There was no openings. There was no providers to help me. The waiting time for a place locally here was 60, 90 days. I didn't have that. I mean, I didn't have a choice. I made it. It was almost 6 months before I got help. We'll get to that. So, yeah, I fought that for 6 months by myself before I got therapy and got into MDMR, which really, really helped deal with all that. I don't know what kind of voodoo or magic that shit is, but it works. Just follow the dot, shit goes away. Okay, cool. Didn't realize it was that easy. Don't get me wrong, it was not that easy. It was pretty brutal, but it works. But yeah, it took me 6 months to find a therapist that I could work with. Got on some meds and stuff started to stabilize. But I was still in a dangerous spot. I was not safe by any means. I could go from okay to not okay like that. And it was really hard to get back to a 0.0, for a long, long time. And so, yeah, I fought that for a while. But of course, I'm working during that time. And that is affecting my work big time. One of the bosses asked the fill-in general manager what was going on. And I told him I was having a really hard time. I was fighting for my life against myself. He had no clue what that meant. He thought I was just being weak. He was the type of Excuse me. He was the type of person that go walk it off, blah blah blah. You don't need therapy, and we actually talked about this because he told me that shortly after that when I was talking to him about it. He didn't understand that, and people that think they needed that, which is so toxic in the work environment. This is the guy that would actually show, I kid you not, for motivational purposes, of course. You know the movie Glenn Ross, the coffee scene? Yeah, that's what we were shown for motivation. You want to get the good list? Work your ass off. Yeah. And I mean, I'm okay for alternative motivation, but when myself and the entire staff is crashing because of COVID and management sucks, it's probably not the best way to treat your employees. But that's a podcast episode in itself. So, there I am, trying to survive, getting therapy, MTMR's working, it's taking hold. I'm feeling less dangerous to myself for the most part, but it's still there. And, I had been taking time for myself, telling my employers that I needed time. Got to the point where they said, well, we need you here. You can't be there. You need to be here. You have obligations here. They had zero understanding and compassion for that. But check this out. So we had this sales weasel that worked for us. This guy was a piece of work. He was very self-entitled. And I had a client that is a concert venue here, the Orpheum Theater in Flagstaff. This guy wanted me to get tickets for his daughter for a sold-out show. After all, he's been in radio forever. He's been able to get tickets for sold-out shows, blah, 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 blah. That shit doesn't work here. It just doesn't. I know better than to ask my friends that run these promotions for tickets to sold-out shows. That shit just doesn't happen. So, I try. I reach out anyway. No go. Tell this guy, he says, try again. So I do again. Well, day of the concert comes. No tickets. This guy comes in my studio when I'm recording my show for the country station that I was working at the time. Starts yelling at me for other stuff. Nothing anywhere near related to the tickets. He didn't mention the tickets at all. He's yelling at me for something that wasn't even in my wheelhouse of responsibility and starts screaming at me. Then he starts attacking me personally, telling me that I'm not big and I'm not tough and he can kick my ass and all this other stuff. And he starts cornering me in my studio and yelling at me and pointing at me. Now, I'm just under 6 foot. This dude is over 6 foot, 300 plus pounds. So he's a big guy. And I thought about it. I thought about it a lot. I had him teed up. He was in my face. He was right here screaming and yelling at me, calling me a miserable piece of shit and that I deserved every single thing that was happening to in my life. And I told him what I was going through and he said he didn't care. Not at all. So he eventually leaves the studio. Engineer hears all this, and I send a letter to corporate right away. And I get a response from corporate, a call later that night after they've talked to everybody else but me. They come to me last. Now, the person in charge of the sales staff at that time told me that God works in mysterious ways. God must have taken this man over and expelled his anger through him. Some bullshit like that. Oh yeah, blamed it on the big G. Not this guy being an asshole, being a whiny little baby because he didn't get his way. No, he blamed it on the devil. The fuck do you do with that? So I'm in complete shock. So I let that go. It's okay, bud. I'll talk to you in a couple of days. We'll go from there. Cool. Let me know what's happening, is what I say. Radio silence for not just one day, it was about 2 weeks. But see, during that time, we had no manager in the station, and I'm not going anywhere near that studio for fears that I'm going to encounter this asshole again and stuff is going to go sideways because I overthought it. I had that coulda, shoulda, woulda. And by then, if he would have cornered me again, I was ready to go. But I did not need to be there, and I knew that. So I wasn't. I'd go in and record my show, work from home. And 2 weeks go by, and I'm not hanging around the station. I'm doing my stuff, bailing, going in, out, jetting, get the hell out of there. Sometimes I didn't even do that because I was just scared to go in this building. Terrified. Grown-ass man. Really? Anyway. A corporate stooge shows up. Call him Leather Pants. That's how this guy showed up at our first meeting one time at the radio station. Tattooed eyeliner, leather pants. You do you. Don't expect me to take you serious if you show up in leather pants on a Monday. Thursday through Saturday is a completely different story and completely different podcast episode. But, so, this guy shows up to town, wants to have a meeting with me, and we meet. And I actually have this meeting recorded. I got the audio of it, because in Arizona you can do that. If you walk up to me and I'm recording the conversation, I can do that. Now, I don't do that on a regular basis, just FYI, but this time I knew that I needed to do it, so I did. So, he walks up, we sit down, and I give my condolences for the passing of his father, who had just passed, and I'm thinking we're just going to have a conversation about what is going to happen next, how this individual and I are going to move forward, hopefully, I get fired. I get fired for not going in and not doing my job when nobody told me it was okay to go in. Nobody told me that anything had been done about this individual. I was just flat out canned. And that was a problem. Because, see, 2 days before that, I'd moved out of my last townhome that we were living in. Now, lease was up on that one, was getting out good, blah, 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 and I was looking for another place. Now, at that time, places are still hard to find in my area, but it was really hard then. And I had a couple of places fall through right at the very last moment. No big deal. So I thought, I'm not going to stress about it. I'm just going to load my shit up in a U-Haul. We're going to stay at a hotel for a day or so, put some stuff in storage. We'll find a nice place. The kids were living with me at that point in time. And cool, no big deal. Stay in a hotel for a bit. That was August 22nd, 2022. As of the recording of this episode, today is November 25th, 2025. Yeah. Now, as one might imagine, I had a hard time with being in a hotel for a little bit. The first month or so, it was okay. The first week was, okay, I need to find a place. Second week was, oh shit, I need to find a place. I'm running out of money to get us into a place. First, last, all that other stuff for Flagstaff or what we're looking at was at least $5,000. Next week comes, getting a little tighter. And that never came to fruition. I ran out of money, enough money to get into a place. And I've never been able to recoup from that in these last 3.5 years. Like I said in the opening, during this 3.5 years, I spent over $90,000 in hotel rooms. It's absolutely ridiculous. Cheapest hotel rooms I can get. Now, don't get me wrong. I am so grateful and so blessed that I've been able to do that most nights. A couple of nights I've had to stay in the car, which is a different story, but I've really appreciated having a roof over my head. Because in my situation, I've really looked at other homeless people differently, wondering what they're going through. Where are they going to sleep that night? How are they going to eat? Are they going to stay warm? And just all that stuff that goes with it. This is a tough spot to be. And it wears and wears, and it's really just shitty. I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. But in the first year of this, it was about 8 months into this whole episode. The depression had really taken hold again. Was really fighting for my life against myself. I wanted nothing but to survive till the next day. But it was fucking hard, man. It was really, really hard. And something happened that made it worse. See, I had a P.O. box. That's where I was getting my mail. And I had all their stuff in storage. And I was getting auction notices for the storage unit. Keep in mind, everything was in there. My stuff, my kids' stuff, all from the house, you know. And I missed the auction date. All of our stuff went up to auction. I thought it was on a Wednesday, it was on a Monday. Somebody bought all our possessions for $183. Everything. All the clothes, all the household items, pots, pans, utensils, birthday presents, gifts, my kids' stuffed animals, all of it was fucking gone. And I crashed again. Really hard. Trigger warning time. Yeah. The day that happened, I was going to do it. I couldn't take it. I'd become everything that everybody said that I was, and I believed it. There's your proof. Everything was gone. I had lost it all. So, I go downtown. And sitting there watching the trains, knowing that that is not where I needed to be at that point in time. If you're in Flagstaff, you know why. So I left that spot, went to what I thought was another safe spot for me. Tried to ground, tried to wait, and I'm screaming, just melting down, trying not to. Turns out that not being by the tracks did not take away the instant opportunity, let's just say. So I made the call. Now, your results may vary. I called 988. That's the number you're supposed to call, right? Shit going sideways, gonna check out, call 988. And I highly encourage that. But if you're in that situation where you're that fucking close, don't call 988. Call 911. I promise you. Because 988 did not do me justice. I mean, they probably did what they're supposed to on their timeline. So I make the call. And I get this young man who had no business taking my phone call. Took the general information, and I told him what I was going to do by the tracks and what I was going to do there. And he didn't grasp the severity of the situation just because I did not have a firearm at that time. And that's the reason why I don't have firearms right now. Haven't had for a long time. But he's asking, do you want help? Do you want somebody to come? Yes, absolutely. Send them right now. I'm not okay. I need help immediately. For God's sakes, somebody please come fucking save me. So I hang up and I wait. And I wait. But I'm sitting and I'm grounding and I'm grabbing the fucking earth and I'm just trying to hold on and just trying to survive. Waiting. Any moment, I know they're going to come around the corner and they're going to help me. They're going to talk me down. They're going to maybe take me somewhere where I need to go for some fucking help right then, right now. Nobody showed. It was an hour and 15 fucking minutes before I finally left. And I told him exactly right where I was, what I was wearing, the car, whole 9 yards. There was nobody driving around the park looking for me. There was nothing. So I go back to the tracks. Yeah. And sit there. Thinking maybe they'll find me there. Hopefully they'll find me there in time. And I told him that was the plan, you know? Fuck. Nobody showed up. Nobody come looking for me. And that pissed me off. I mean, really made me fucking mad. Not just for me, but what about the other people that have to make that fucking phone call? Have to reach out and do that? How dare they not show up? Now, again, I should have called 911. 988 was not the number for this situation. 911 was. But I didn't make that call. Now I know. And I hope you know too. So, what do? I go back to the hotel room. And for a couple of days, I had to sit with the fact that I'd lost everything. My eldest Rye had some of their stuff because they had already moved out into their own place and had a lot of stuff, but they had a lot of stuff too. But Zachariah lost everything. And I had to tell my son that all of his stuff was gone. That I had failed him. That I had let everything go. Because I couldn't.
And it was at this point in the recording session that he realized that his microphone had been unplugged for a while. Sorry about that. So yeah, that was obviously a really rough spot. Hard to get out of. And I fought my way through it. I wanted to see what was next. And that's always been, I think, what has been holding me on. Not just I can't do that to my children. Can't leave my dog. I can't do that to myself. Because I want to know what's next. I want to know what's going to happen next. I mean, I've learned not to say it can't get any worse, so I'm not going to say that. I know better. But just keep hanging on. And now I especially have to for my kids. Because, see, over a year ago, they lost their mom. She lost her battle with mental illness. And it was a horrible, tragic situation. It's a story that I'll tell maybe some other time with their permission, of course. But watching them go through that has been the hardest thing I've ever had to watch. And I can't put them through that again. So, I take deep breaths. In and out. Because sometimes that's all we've got. Now, I hope to have a lot of smarter people than I am on this podcast to talk about rebuilding my body, mind, soul, financial situation, and everything else that I need help with. I don't want to say that this is rock bottom and it can't get any worse. But right now's really, really fucking rough. My job that I had, I was doing delivery driving. I was doing DoorDash, Grubhub. Well, little issue with paying my car insurance and registration with the state of Arizona and stuff like that because, well, I can't pay all my bills at this time. And let's just say they'd rather I didn't do that now. I am a tour guide for Freaky Foot Tours in Flagstaff, Arizona. Book now at freakyfoottours.com. But obviously, we're hitting the slow part for that. Next month, coming up in December, I've got another side gig that we'll chat about. Ho, ho, ho. Yeah. And we'll chat about how Santa gets through the holidays with depression. That'll be a fun episode. But, yeah. So, here's where I'm at. Fuck. I literally have $5 to my name, $35 in my bank account, and a hotel room that is going to cost me $50 for the next night and the night after that, with no more of this coming in. So I'm kind of curious how this week is going to go. Thursday's Thanksgiving. Yay. So, if you'd like to help yours truly in his endeavor to survive, stay in a hotel room, get the fuck out of here. Really appreciate your help. There's a link below. It's got my Venmo information in it. And I'm going to create a GoFundMe because I have to get out of this situation some way, somehow. Social services is there, and I think it might be a safety net for some. I don't know if it's going to be that effective for me or that timely. Because honestly, I'd like to get out of that bracket ASAP. So I need to get into that bracket first. So if you can help yours truly with a night at a hotel or what have you for the next couple of months while things pick up, I'd greatly appreciate it. My Venmo information is going to be below. Like I said, I'll create the GoFundMe. That'll be below. But yeah, this is embarrassing. It's fucking humiliating. I hate doing it, but I really, really need some help to survive right now. It's cold outside. I don't want to sleep in my car. We chatted about the shelter thing. I don't do well in shelters. And neither would my dog Okara. So, if you can, I'd be grateful for your help. What I'd really appreciate is you liking this page, subscribing to my YouTube, sharing this video, letting like-minded people that have gone through some shit know that it's okay, and we'll get through this, okay? Now, this is no way whatsoever meant as a pity party for Steve, not at all. Like I've said, I've put a lot of time and effort saying that could have been worse. I'm grateful that it wasn't, and that led me to a bad spot. Or improper thinking. How's that? But yeah, now here we're trying to dig out. So, I appreciate you. Thank you for your time and listening to me babble. We'll chat again very soon. Till then, please be good to yourself and others.